Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. All right, let's jump right in. We're scanning today's X feed, picking out the posts that really matter.
That's right. We've got 8 key posts lined up: technology, global stuff, markets, even some viral moments, all about getting you those valuable insights.
Yep, cutting through the noise, straight to the point. Let's get started. First up, this one from @libsofttech really jumps out. The UK is arresting people for retweets https://co6ppsmhkdqw. Okay, arresting for retweets, that sounds intense. That's a headline that definitely grabs you.
It absolutely is. And this falls under the UK's Online Safety Act from 2023. We're actually seeing reports, like from the New York Post, suggesting, well, quite a number, potentially up to 30 arrests a day.
30-day for things like retweeting.
Yeah, for what many would see as pretty minor online stuff. It's a real shift from, traditional free speech ideas, and it's getting international criticism, too. Senator J.D. Vance, for instance, has spoken out.
But how are they even, tracking people for this with VPNs and all that? How do they actually link a retweet back to a specific person?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's tricky. Tools like VPNs do offer some cover, obviously. But a 2025 study, I think it was in the Journal of Cybersecurity, showed it's actually getting easier to link online aliases to real people.
How so?
Well, through things like metadata leaks or maybe unique ways people behave online across different sites. Sometimes people accidentally link personal accounts too. Plus, the UK government itself, you can see this on gov.uk updates, they're pushing for legal ID to be linked to social media.
Wow.
Yeah. They say it's for safety, but naturally it brings up huge...
Definitely a tricky balance. A lot to think about there from that post by @libsofttech. Okay, moving on. Let's talk economics, specifically tariffs. This next one's from @Eric Eldaw, presenting a dialogue framed as a truth nuke from Scott Bessent. Goes, Scott Bessent truth nuke. Trump. Critics say tariffs are a hidden tax on consumers. Bessent. If they're so bad and the American consumers paying them, why do we hear the European Chinese companies and the Chinese complaining about tariffs? https://tco.trap9cjyb. So here's where it gets really interesting. Bessent basically saying, hold on, maybe consumers aren't the ones paying.
Exactly. Bessent, who's tipped as a potential Treasury Secretary for Trump, he's making a really direct argument here. He says tariffs mainly hit the foreign companies, not us consumers.
And his proof is?
His proof is that it's the European and Chinese companies who are complaining loudly about them. It's a total counterpoint to a lot of economic studies, like from the Peterson Institute, which usually argue tariffs mean higher prices for people buying stuff domestically.
Because importers just pass the cost on. Right.
That's the standard model, yeah. Bessent is turning that on its head, saying tariffs are more about leverage against other countries.
So what does this mean for the bigger picture? For global trade?
Well, it signals a potential shift, doesn't it? Away from global cooperation, maybe, towards more protectionist policies. We're seeing hints of this already. Look at the EU recently slapping big tariffs, like up to 45% on Chinese EVs.
Right, I saw that.
It suggests a wider pushback against what countries see as unfair trade. If Bessent's view takes hold, you could see trade tensions ramp up even more. It changes the whole game.
Fascinating stuff. A real challenge to the status quo. That insight came via Eric Eldaw. Okay, let's switch lanes to crypto. Michael Saylor, @Saylor, posted this. Bitcoin is still on sale. https://t.core xp6g84bs. We hear this kind of thing a lot in the crypto space, but coming from Saylor, it always lands with impact, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin bet is huge, something like $68.6 billion in their portfolio now. They started this back in 2020 with, $425 million. It's paid off massively for them.
So when he says still on sale, what's the context there?
Well, looking at the numbers around August 30th, 2025, Bitcoin was trading somewhere between, say, 108K and 117K. That's still quite a bit below its all-time high, which was around $124,500.
Okay, so it's down from the peak.
Exactly. So for someone like Saylor, seeing that dip, that bearish correction, that looks like a buying opportunity, hence on sale.
Why is Saylor so well committed to Bitcoin? It feels like more than just an investment for him.
Yeah, it really does. A lot of it seems to trace back to his experience with the SEC back in 2000, a fraud settlement. That seems to have really shaped his view on traditional finance.
So Bitcoin is the alternative.
For him, yes. He positions it as a crucial hedge against inflation, against instability in fiat currencies. And, there's some academic work that backs this idea. A 2021 NBER paper showed Bitcoin tracked pretty closely with gold during uncertain economic times, about a 0.7 correlation.
Interesting. So it's not just belief, there's some data there too.
For Saylor, it seems to be both. It's a fundamental rethink of where value lies.
Always powerful hearing that conviction from Matt Saylor. All right, let's shift back to U.S. politics. Big news reported by @Leading Report. Breaking. President Trump will sign an executive order banning universal mail-in voting and requiring voter ID for every ballot cast in the United States. That's major. Huge potential impact on how elections run in the U.S.
Absolutely. The reported order takes aim at two really hot-button issues: universal mail-in voting and voter ID. It's framed within this ongoing debate about election integrity.
How does this compare internationally? Is universal mail-in common elsewhere?
Actually, not really. According to the International Institute for... Well, it depends who you ask, honestly. You've got groups like the Heritage Foundation. They have an election fraud map updated recently, end of July 2025, and it does list specific documented cases. Rare, but they happen, like an incident in Wisconsin in 2022.
Okay, so some cases exist.
Yes, but then you have other studies, like one from MIT in 2021, concluding there's no evidence of widespread systemic fraud that would actually change election outcomes. And the replies to the original post brought up counterpoints, too, like the practical need for mail-in options for, say, overseas military or people with disabilities.
Right, accessibility is a big factor.
Exactly. And there was even a White House order in 2025 that talked about needing voter-verifiable paper trails, but also stressed making sure voting remains accessible. So it's complex, deeply polarized.
Definitely a critical issue with big implications. That report came from @Leading Report. Now for something completely different, a viral moment that just kept escalating. This update is from @Imam0. Update. Polish CEO Mr. Szczesek of the private company Drogbrook, who grabbed a hat intended for a child on live TV at the U.S. Open, breaks his silence. I understand that some people might not like it, but please, let's not make a global scandal out of the hat. It's just a https://topqrhojykxk. Oh, the hat guy. That sparked huge outrage, and now his response. Seems like it just poured gasoline on the fire.
Pretty much, yeah. This whole thing at the 2025 U.S. Open was just, wow. So Peter Szczesek, the CEO, snatches the signed tennis cap meant for a kid. Then his defense was basically, life's tough, first come, first served.
Not exactly apology material.
Not at all. And then he threatened legal action against people criticizing him. It became less about the hat and more about, well, public behavior, maybe even cultural differences in how free speech and public criticism are handled, comparing Poland and the U.S. perhaps.
So how did this play out for him and his company, Drogbrook? It's just a hat defense work?
No, not even close. It's a classic example of how fast things can go south online. Sugar rating plummeting to bad, directly linked to his actions.
Ouch.
Yeah. And contrast that with the tennis player, Kamil Mabasak, who actually stepped up, met the kid, gave him some stuff. That got positive attention. It really shows the power of social media backlash and how a bad non-apology can make things so much worse.
A very public lesson in accountability. Thanks to @EmiaMen for tracking that. Okay, next up, some concerning news about a well-known figure. This is from @ThePatriotOasis. It's breaking. Rudy Giuliani, 81, seriously injured in New Hampshire car wreck. Giuliani was hospitalized with a fractured vertebrae and multiple cuts and bruises, including injuries specifically to his left arm. http://t.co/JLO6SIP3JV. Yeah, I saw this. Serious injuries to Giuliani, definitely concerning, and a reminder of vulnerability, regardless of who you are.
Absolutely. He's 81, involved in this serious crash up in New Hampshire, reported August 31st, 2025. Fractured vertebra, cuts, bruises. It's significant. It really contrasts with that image many have of him, especially from his time as mayor during 9/11, that resilience.
Right. Given his profile, was there any immediate speculation online about, foul play or anything?
There always is with high-profile people, isn't there? Some replies immediately jump to suggesting it might have been targeted, but it's really important to stress there's zero evidence for that.
Statistically unlikely, too.
Very. A 2023 forensic science study found only something like 2% of car crashes are intentional. So jumping to conclusions isn't helpful. Of course, this news also lands while Giuliani's known financial issues are ongoing, like that co-op sale recently had a big loss because of lawsuits. That's just context, not related to the crash itself, but it's part of the public narrative.
Understood. Well, hopefully he makes a full recovery. That news came via @ThePatriotOasis. All right, 7th post. A very bold claim from the owner himself, Elon Musk, is the top source of news on Earth.
Wow. Okay. Top source of news on Earth. That's quite the statement.
It certainly is. He's basing this claim on App Store data,
Yeah.
specifically citing the UK and US rankings, where X is apparently the #1 news app.
Okay, so there's some data behind it.
There is, and it does tap into a real trend. We know from places like the Reuters Institute that social media is increasingly becoming the main news source for many people, often overtaking traditional outlets. So the claim fits that broader shift.
There was something kind of weird about that specific post, wasn't there? Something that caused a bit of a stir,
Ah, yeah, you're right. The image he used, it was the Australian flag.
which had nothing to do with the UK or US data he was talking about. Exactly. Caused a lot of confusion, people pointing it out. It kind of detracted from the main point, maybe raised questions about, attention to detail. And it comes at a time when X is constantly facing criticism about misinformation.
Right, the EU, for example.
Precisely. EU officials, European Commission studies, they've pointed to X as a significant channel for disinformation. So claiming to be the top source of news while facing those accusations, it creates a bit of a paradox, doesn't it?
It really does. A fascinating tension there. That post, of course, from @Elon Musk. Okay, last one for today. This comes from @AmericaMemmed, and it's visually striking. We should make this happen. https://CORRV5Y7A5Z. And it shows a video of the Statue of Liberty being polished back to its original shiny copper. Whoa! Yeah, I saw that. It looks amazing. Totally different, gleaming copper.
It's definitely eye-catching, makes you see it in a whole new light, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, that green color, the patina, it's not just iconic, it's actually protective.
Protective.
It formed naturally over decades through oxidation, and that green layer essentially shields the copper underneath from corroding further. So, historically, they've deliberately not polished it off. Keeping the patina is part of preserving the statue.
Huh. So polishing it, even though it looks kind of cool in the video, would actually be bad for it?
Pretty much, yeah. It would remove its natural shield. And this isn't a new idea. People have talked about polishing Liberty back to copper since the early 1900s.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There was a plan around 1906 to repaint it, but it got shot down. People thought it was sacrilegious. Plus, practically speaking, the green patina would just come back in a few decades anyway. Current thinking in monument preservation is usually about maintaining the structure as it has evolved, history and all. Like the big restoration in the 80s that was all about fixing the structure, not changing the color.
Makes sense. So the green doesn't just age, it's part of her story and her protection. Very cool insight that came from @MericaMed. And there we have it. A pretty intense sprint through some of today's key X posts, from free speech debates and economic theories to crypto strategy and hash scandals.
It really shows how dynamic these platforms are, doesn't it? You get such a mix of serious global issues right alongside these completely unexpected viral moments. It's a real reflection of our current conversations. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? With information moving so fast, getting twisted, reinterpreted, what are those deeper layers, those hidden impacts that maybe we miss just scrolling through the feed every day?
That is definitely something to chew on. A great thought to end on. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive on the Daily Vibecasting. Keep questioning, keep digging deeper. We'll catch you on the next one.